All right, good evening, everybody. Happy Saturday. Hopefully everybody's having a good start to the weekend. So we are right now in downtown Miami, right outside of the 1000 Museum. And we're actually have a pretty rare look at an amazing lightning storm right now. So I'm not sure how well it comes out on the camera, but it looks amazing from here. So probably about 20 miles to the north, we have a little bit of a heat lightning storm. I think it's supposed to rain in about an hour and a half, so we will see. But tonight I wanted to talk a little bit about a Wall Street Journal article I read today that essentially explains how to avoid getting eaten alive by the Federal Reserve. And now, I know we talk about, almost ad nauseum on the stream, about the relation of the Federal Reserve's tightening and easing of their monetary policy and asset prices. So I wanted to dive in a little bit and explore, because you guys know I'm a very regimented, wow, that lightning strike was amazing, slim investor. But I think if we zoom out over a longer term time frame, let's say you're investing in a 401k or an IRA or something like that, I think we could look at some key valuation metrics as in relation to when should we be buying for a long-term time horizon. Is it when the S&P 500 is trading at 13 times forward earnings? Is it when it's trading at 8 times forward earnings? So we're going to look back at some historical data on that and read a little bit of this article here. But first, let's see who we have in the chat. And I hope everybody's having a great start to the week. So let's see who we have in the chat, everybody. As we look at this crazy lightning storm, looks amazing over there. I see the one and only Mr. Ming is here. Welcome, Mr. Ming. It's always good to see you. Colin Watt is here. Sally, welcome. Good to see you, Sally. Soho guy is here. The one and only Chris Beeman. Welcome, Chris. Good to see you. Ali is here. Says, hey, everybody. FredX is here. Good to see you. Hope you're well. Felix says, hey, Tom. Buenos noches. Buenos noches to you too, my friend. Colin Watt says, the weather is 13 degrees Celsius, mostly cloudy here in Canada. Wow. Warwalker says, evening, Tomcat. Good to see you. British Gray says, good evening, Tom and Chris Beeman. So here's what it looks like, the downtown Miami skyline. So you're seeing the very famous 1000 Museum building. And right to the north here, we have amazing thunderstorm going on. Lena Sandoval is here. Good to see you. DR XXX says, hello, everybody. And Tom, welcome. Beautiful night, beautiful evening. Really, really hot here in Miami today. And I think we got the first sort of go about of really, really hot summer weather here. So it was fantastic. Abdul is here. Welcome. Some Jib. Lupe is here. Welcome. Carmen says, hello, Tom. Hope you're doing well. I'm doing fantastic today. Had a very good start to the weekend. I hope you did as well. Melee is here. Welcome. Mr. Ming. And we also have the very famous moon over Miami here. You know, the moon is so bright tonight, it almost looks like the sun. Colin Watts says heat lightning is usually silent, normal lightning makes loud thunder sounds. Yeah, so it definitely is probably heat lightning. You know, could you imagine being on a balcony in one of these buildings here, such as 1000 Museum or something like that, and looking at that lightning storm? Fantastic there. And then we have people here fishing. But one of the interesting things I was reading about today in the Wall Street Journal, it was a good article just to sort of reiterate sort of what's going on. You know, a lot of investors have been trained to accommodate to what's called the Fed put. So now that Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell is in the realm here, they call it the Powell put. But past Fed presidents, they used to call it the same exact thing. And essentially what that means is anytime the market would come under a little bit of pressure, you could almost bet, almost 99 to 100% of the time, the Federal Reserve would come in here, lower interest rates, and expand their asset purchases. But here's the issue this time, and I know it's never appropriate to say it's different this time, but here's why it may be a little bit different this time. The reason why it may be a little bit different this time is because not only are asset prices falling, but inflation is really, really ramping. So before, inflation was actually running well below the Federal Reserve's target of about 2.5%. We ran well below that for many, many years. So it was almost, I don't really want to say appropriate for the Federal Reserve to come in here and drop interest rates to zero, but it was a little bit more safe for them to do that. But now, if we think about this, if inflation is ramping, we just got another CPI print of almost 9%. The Federal Reserve is going to be forced to raise interest rates, and let's say they take a step back and they're like, okay, the NASDAQ is in a bear market. The S&P 500 is in spitting distance of a bear market. It's time to now stimulate the economy again and start to back off and lower interest rates. I'm not sure they're going to be able to do that. And here's why. Well, the number one reason is because we are in a election cycle. And I can almost guarantee you that the poll results are going to be absolutely horrible for the Democrats if inflation continues to ramp here. And now the point of the stream is not to get political, it's to sort of think about this a little bit more analytical as an investor and what's going to be reality here. So thinking about it like that, Joe Biden and the Biden administration is going to get really, really hard on the Federal Reserve to kill this inflation before the midterms, especially fast forwarding a couple of years. If we don't get inflation under control by the next presidential election, there's almost a 100% guarantee that Joe Biden is going to be out of office. It's almost a guarantee. So I don't think it's going to be possible for the Federal Reserve to drop interest rates and continue their bond buying program, because even though that may save the stock market, if we look at the data, almost 95% of all the US equities that are owned in the United States are owned by the top 5 and 1%, not your average American. And the average American is the main voter base. So I think the Federal Reserve is this time going to sacrifice the stock market, especially now that they're probably going to get intense pressure from the Biden administration to kill inflation, not only before the midterms, but more specifically before the main presidential election. So I think it's going to be, I think the Federal Reserve is in between a rock and a hard place. Could see an environment where the S&P 500 forward multiples come down a little bit. A lot of economists are predicting the S&P could fall to as much as or as low as 10 times forward earnings. But if that does happen, I think that would be an amazing generational buying opportunity. And I know I always say it's never appropriate to buy stocks in a downtrend. But if you're in a long-term retirement account, if you're under the age of 35, and you have an opportunity to buy the S&P 500 at 10 times forward earnings, I think that's a pretty good opportunity. I think at the very height of the 2008 financial crisis, the S&P 500 was trading for 8.8 times forward earnings, which was a deal and a half it turned out to be. Deborah says, don't agree with your inflation theory. Yeah, I mean, a lot of people don't. But good to see you, Deborah. I'm curious to see what are your guys' thoughts on inflation. So if you don't agree with me, I'd love to know what you guys think, because it's definitely a very testy situation here. NMB 045 says, happy Saturday night, Tom. I missed last night's live stream. Well, good to see you, NMB 045. It was only about an hour stream because I was working pretty late. Andy S says, Tom, the economy needs a message. Al J is here. Good to see you, Al J. Shannon is here. Says, sitting in Illinois minor league baseball game watching you tonight, Tom. Wow, well, thank you. We appreciate it. Al J says, hey, Tom and everybody, days works. It's beautiful weather there, Tom, in Miami. Yeah, it was really beautiful today. It was about 88 degrees, bright sunshine, and now we get to watch this beautiful heat lightning storm here. But what makes it even better is this brand new, beautiful full moon here. XXX says, Tom, I love the view. Thank you. My friend Sunshine After Rain is here. Good to see you. Stephanie Monster is here. Says hi. Good to see you. But if we look all the way over here, this is actually the Ferris wheel at Bayside Marketplace. Hemp Lord is here, says, what's up, Tom? Good to see you. Welcome, Hemp Lord. Hope you had a good start to your weekend. Chris Beeman says, last night's stream was love. It was just shorter due to the lack of battery. Yeah, so I've been taking with me my Lightning USB-C charger, and I always forget to bring the brick because usually I just plug in the USB stick into the side of my computer to charge it, but I do not have a USB-C port. Ed Dunkel says, wow, this weather is very dramatic. Good to see you, Ed Dunkel. Dutchman says, hello, Tom. That was nice to finally see you on AK's live stream last night. Yeah, so we did run into Action Kid. We've done streams with him before. I think about maybe 3 weeks ago, we did about a 2.5 hour stream with him. Great guy, love Action Kid, very smart. Winger is here, says, hey, Tom, what's up, Winger? Good to see you. Dutchman. So what do you guys think? I want to know your opinions on this because I think it's going to be a very testy situation. I think it's going to be very hard for the Federal Reserve to have its cake and eat it too. And here's what I mean. I think it's going to be hard to get inflation under control in general, but I think it's going to be even harder to have inflation under control and support the stock markets. But the Federal Reserve has been very clear now that they are willing to let the stock market fall further in order to fight inflation. So what do you guys think? Do you think it could happen? Do you think it's a possibility? And if you had any suggestions for Fed Chair Jerome Powell, what would they be? What would they be? Colin says, we occasionally get thunderstorms here in Yellowknife around 3 times per year. Yeah, so I think we get them here a lot, probably because of the such high humidity. It's really, really humid here in Miami. Mr. Ming, yeah, so I think there was a plane crash today, unfortunately, in Miami on the Hollover Inlet Bridge, which is never good. It's horrible reading about that. Michelle K is here, says, good evening, Tom and everybody. Welcome, Michelle. Disney cast member, the one and only, is here. Welcome. So Disney, we're standing right behind the FTX Arena where the Miami Heat plays basketball. We're watching some planes take off, looking at the skyline, and looking at a heat lightning storm here. Days Work says, yeah, 1 person died and 5 injuries. Horrible. Horrible. Yeah, it happened right at the Hollover Inlet there. So Hollover Inlet's actually pretty close to where I live. If you go from Sunny Isles Beach, I think the next stop down on the bus is Haulover. And I think it was one of those little biplanes, one of those 1 or 2 passenger planes. Hey, Anna is here, says happy weekend. Bernard Friedman is here, welcome Bernard. Photos from around New York, says any manatees. You know, photos, I've been seeing a ton of manatees and sea turtles. So I've been working out of the financial tower here, which is actually this building right here. And every day on my lunch break, I've been coming and walking around this location. And I've been seeing sea turtles and manatees almost every single day. But very rarely do we see them at night. I think there was about a couple streams ago, maybe 3 or 4 months ago, we saw some dolphins here. Yeah, sunshine after rain, says any dolphins. The only time I saw one on live stream was about 3 months ago when we saw a teeny bit of it, a little bit of a glimpse of it. Mr. Ming, welcome. Anna, Bernard Friedman. Photos from around New York. So for all of our New Yorkers in the chat, I think it was extremely rainy today. Hey, Rob K says, what do you expect from Walmart on Tuesday? Yeah, it's a good question, Rob. So we do have Walmart and Target reporting on Tuesday. And I think analysts on Wall Street are expecting a decline in EPS and a very slight increase in revenue. But I think it's going to be very telling to them. What is this thing? Oh, it's a bird. I think it's going to be very telling to these things really bomb on earnings. Because if they bomb on earnings, that means consumers are even cutting back even further on necessary items. So usually as economies head into recession, it usually rolls like this. Number one, they cut back on things that they really don't need. So you could talk about, going out to bars and restaurants. They cut back on subscription services of things that are sort of nice to haves. And then the final sort of straw that they cut back on, even though they still have to buy them, are like groceries, but they start to sort of go down the stack. So instead of buying maybe a name brand, they buy the store brand and things like that. So I still think in general, overall, those type of companies like your Walmarts, your Targets, your Church and Dwight's are probably going to be a little bit safer than a lot of the very high beta growthy tech stocks. I think the valuations of those companies still need to come down a little bit, but on the other hand, I think we could have a very short-term bounce here because all of the major indices are extremely overextended to the downside from their main moving average, like the 200-day and the 50-day. So you never know. But I think that it could be, if you're initiating any new positions in Walmart or Target, I think it could potentially be a little bit risky here because their valuations are even getting pretty stretched here. Walmart and Target, their valuations are going up on a price to sales, price to earnings ratio because investors across the globe are piling into these names because they just want to get out of high beta tech at all costs. So we'll definitely cover those earnings reports on the streams 100% on Tuesday. But to your point, I believe I believe Walmart and Target both report Tuesday. Melee says, did anybody see the red sky in China this week? I didn't. I did not. Bernard Friedman says, yes, it will most likely be below the 50-day or 200-day moving average range. Ed Dunkel says, have faith, Jerome Powell is much better than Arthur Burns from the 70s. Yeah, I guess we'll see. I think it's going to be really hard to keep inflation under control without having further downside pressure on the market here. DWG says, hi, Tom. Is that the cruise ship port? It is. So over here is the cruise ship port. So as you go over this bridge here, this is where all the, I think they're called the Virgin Cruises take off right here. Patricia Ivory says, hey Tom, good to see you, Patricia Ivory. Ryan Royal says, oh my God, what a beautiful lightning show. I know. And it's nice because it's a heat lightning show and it's about 20 miles away, so it's not dangerous to be filming out in it, which is good. Abdullah's here, says amazing view. Good to see you, Abdullah. Don Smith says, any news on Coinbase? So I never owned Coinbase. I think it was one of those very hyped up, speculative initial public offerings. And here's one of the main reasons why I didn't make an investment in both Coinbase and Robinhood. Because as of now, those two, their business models are predicated on an environment of irrational exuberance. So they're not sustainable in all market cycles. And here's what I mean by that. If you look at the vast majority of people who have money in Robinhood and Coinbase, they tend to have very little amounts of money deposited on those platforms in relation to an institutional investor or a seasoned investor, right? You're not going to be running multiple millions of dollars on Robinhood, or at least I would hope you're not. Robinhood and Coinbase really took off during the pandemic because nobody really had anything else to do but sit at home and speculate on the stock market and the cryptocurrency markets. And now that the economy is opening up now, I think you're starting to see volumes decline drastically on not only Robinhood but Coinbase. So for me, even though there's that thought process of, it's better to own the exchanges because it's sort of like selling the pitchforks and the shovels, I think that those two exchanges in particular are really marketed towards a certain type of investor that are only active 20% of the time in a market cycle. And that 20% of the time tends to be that irrational exuberance blow off top, which we've seen, and we've written about this a lot in the Behind the Street newsletter. And that's one of the reasons why I've never cared for like a Coinbase or a Robinhood. And I think that Robinhood is a very good possibility that Robinhood may go out of business if it wasn't for the cash injection from FTX. Hey, Sabrina Fair is here. Good to see you, Sabrina. Hope you're well. British Gray is here. Says Tom, Walmart, Apple, Target's, Best Buy will be releasing their earnings on Tuesday morning. I think Apple already reported their earnings, I believe. Ed Dunkel says, I bought Coinbase last week at $50. Oof. Gregory, good to see you. Welcome, my friend. Yeah, Colin says that was a nice lightning strike. They're starting to get bigger now, I think, as the storm is rolling maybe a little bit to the east. Arnold is here, says, hey man, good to see you, Arnold. Welcome. Maria is here. NE says, I started in the pandemic because I finally had money after graduating college and getting my first full-time job. Well, that's fantastic, man. That's awesome. Rob DeCaro says, hey Tom, I came in first place in the 100 meter, fourth place in 200 meter. Wow, dude, that's freaking fantastic. Congratulations on your success, man. That's awesome. Maria's here, Disney cast members here, Rob DeCaro, Don Smith says Barron's had an article on Coinbase. I didn't get to, was that this week or was that last week? I didn't get to read Barron's today. I was reading the Wall Street Journal and Investors Business Daily. And there was a lot of good information today in the Wall Street Journal, a lot of good stuff. Abdullah says, hello, good to see you, Tom. Welcome, good to see you as well. Days off. Says, yes, it's headed east, watching from Miramar, Florida. Yeah, I mean, originally when I was looking at the radar, it said it was going to come directly over downtown Miami, but, storms here tend to move very, very fast. But I love watching the thunderstorms here. Disney cast member says that's one of the things I miss about living in Florida is the heat lightning, pretty much nightly. Yeah, you're right. And especially now that we are getting more towards the summer, because the humidity is really, really cranking up now here in, what is that? I'm not sure if that's a fish or if it's a leaf. Something weird. Hey, Arnold, it's such a nice night, man. It's freaking beautiful. I agree. Hey, Ross Romes says, greetings from London, UK. Very cool. What's up, Ross? Good to see you. You know, another thing I was reading about in the Wall Street Journal, which has been going on for a long, long time, is we have a shortage of baby formula here in the United States. So I'll tell you a quick story. This was about last month. So the last time I came back from New York to Miami, my Uber driver, so I get in the Uber, and my Uber driver is so stressed out. She's all distraught. And she's on the phone calling grocery store to grocery store, as well as all of the pharmacies around to try to see if they have a specific type of baby formula for her kid. And I sort of stopped her and I was like, look, you know, you're driving the car. I'm like, let me call around and I'll see if they have it. And so she gave me the little card, and the baby formula was like a very, very specific kind of formula for children that I guess are allergic to milk or has a lactose allergy, I believe. And when I'm telling you, I spent 30 minutes calling every single place here in Florida. Nobody had it. I was looking on Amazon. Nobody had it. It was out. And I was just like, couldn't believe in the United States of America that we would allow a situation like that. So this particular type of baby food or formula or whatever you call it, I'm so ignorant to all this stuff because I don't have a kid, is totally sold out. You can't get it. It's not even, you can't even get it on online marketplaces from overseas. So she was freaking out and she said, I'm just gonna have to go to my son's pediatrician and see if there's any sort of substitute. And today in the Wall Street Journal, there's going to be, well, supposedly, I think on May 25th, there's going to be a meeting at Congress to sort of ease some of the regulations and rules in relation to developing a formula to hopefully put some more supply on the market. But I mean, it's just so bizarre that this is happening in the United States. You would never, ever think it in a million years. D says, recall, that's not what I heard. The investigator says, walks on Wall Street, good evening. The rain is much needed here in southeast Colorado. It only rained once in 6 months. Jeez. You know, that's almost like Arizona with having a crazy drought over there. Deborah says they're waiting till May 25th. Hemp Lord is here, good to see you. Arnold says lactose intolerance is pretty common. NE says, yeah, it's horrible. I hear about the baby formula shortages every day. Yeah, it's wild. Disney cast member says the formula shortage initially came because they had to recall it for bacteria. Interesting, I didn't know that. XXX says healthiest baby formula equals goat's milk. Don't listen to what the liars tell you. I mean, I don't know anything about it, so I'm not going to give my 2 cents on that. NE says, least favorite part about summer in Florida is the daily afternoon thunderstorms and the heat. Yeah, so it's interesting. I actually kind of like that. But then again, I'm very, very strange. I actually tend to like the humidity a lot. Ritz won the grade says, why can't Biden just turn these factories into making more formulas like how Trump designed the many factories making ventilators when there was a shortage? Well, I think it has to do a lot about just global supply chain issues. And there's usually about probably a 6 to 12 month lag time. So if you think about it, we literally turned off the economy for almost a year. And I mean, in some parts of the world, the economy is still turned off. You know, I'm reading about horror stories that's going on in Shanghai. I mean, these people are crazy. I was reading a statistic that the amount of visa applications in the city of Shanghai, China, is up 600% year over year because of their zero COVID policy. Now, I'm all for trying to limit and contain the spread of the virus, but I'm also a rational thinker, and you have to understand that it is impossible to have a zero COVID policy, okay? I mean, people are gonna get the coronavirus. Everybody's pretty much had it, and everybody's pretty much has readily access to a vaccine. But these people, especially in Shanghai, these people are literally prisoners to their homes. They can't go outside, they have to get food delivered to them, all over 2,000 COVID cases. It's really quite dystopian. And people are trying to get out. People are trying to escape, and it is crazy. And if you think about how much stuff we get or import from China, that's the scary thing, right? We are so heavily reliant on buying Chinese goods and services. And if they're willing to shut down their economy, it's only a matter of time before that starts to catch up and affect us here in the United States, because we don't produce anything here. We send all of our manufacturing of products and services overseas to places like China to purchase. Yes, Forever 18 says, Tom, commodity shortages is the biggest disaster to the United States. No matter how well the country's economy is, commodity shortages will lead economy backwards if persistently is going on. Agreed. I think that's a very good point. Cat says, speaking of ventilators, I read that one of the shortages the medical field is having right now is ventilators. How is that possible? I have no idea. I didn't read that, but I'm going to look into that. Thank you for sharing that. Valdan is here. Colin Watts says, in April, we only got 1 day of very light snowfall here in northern Canada. Chris Beeman says, the monsoon this year is supposed to be greater than normal. We shall see. Well, I mean, they said the same thing here in Florida, that the hurricane season is supposed to be worse than normal. I'm really, really hoping that's not the case. I really don't want to have to deal with hurricanes. I know it's just a part of life living down here, but you know, hurricanes are no joke, especially if they're Category 5. Deja Vu is here. Says local gas station pumps have buy Bitcoin stickers on them. That's interesting. I haven't seen that. Maybe it's because I don't drive. Vinny Castellano is here. Says, hey Tom, what's up, Vinny? Hope you're doing well. We are here in downtown Miami tonight. We were just checking out some of the lightning storm here. Disney cast member, good to see you. Daryl says, good evening from Chicago, Illinois. Hey Tom, good to see you, Daryl. So Daryl, it's an extremely hot and humid day out here in Miami, but it was a nice day overall. Extremely hot. I actually got a chance to walk around briefly at the beach. I was at the 79th Street Beach in North Beach tonight. Brian says, hey Tom, what are your thoughts on how the war in Ukraine is continuing to impact the global economy and specifically the market? Well, I think the biggest tragedy that's going to come about from this war in Ukraine is, I think over the next 1 to 2 years, there'll probably be more people on this earth that'll starve to death than almost ever before in history. And that's a horrible, horrible reality, because the grain and the wheat market is so important. And the vast majority of wheat comes out of Russia and Ukraine, and due to the war, they are missing all of their growing seasons. And this is why you're seeing, you know, wheat ramping, if anybody follows the commodities market closely. So I think that's going to be the biggest travesty to come out of the entire war. I think that, oh, hold on, let me adjust my mic. I think that there's going to be more casualties or deaths from the Russia-Ukraine war, not actually from bullets flying and drone strikes and things like that. I think the majority of the death toll is actually going to come from food shortages, more specifically wheat and grain. I think that is unfortunately going to result in many people starving to death, unfortunately, which is horrible, horrible. But I mean, looking on the bright side of it, I think it's going to really send a signal to the rest of the world to have us understand that we can't be super over dependent on one particular country or one particular part of the world. But if you look at the wheat production, the vast majority of that production comes from the Ukraine and Russia. NE is here, says, yes, I've also heard that people are severely underestimating the strong possibility of a massive food shortage. They are. I can tell you with certainty they are. Yes, Forever 18 says, Tom, Russia and Ukraine war, it only caused the supply chain worser. Tom M says, current admin cancels massive oil and gas lease sale amid record high prices. Yeah, I read about that. It was ridiculous. Teresa Roberts says, hello, Tom and everybody. Good to see you, Teresa. Let's see who we else have here. Hey, Vinny Castellano says, Maria sends her best wishes and love to you, Tom. Thank you. I appreciate that. Hopefully you guys are doing well over there in Staten Island. I heard it was a washout today, too, in New York. So hopefully the weather will improve. You know, I was in New York all last week. Well, actually for about 2 weeks I was in New York. And every single day it was almost relentless rain. A little bit unfortunate, but you know, I've always said the weather in May in New York always tends to be a little bit volatile, so you never know. Hopefully it'll improve. Hopefully by Memorial Day it'll improve. Hey, Abdullah is here. Welcome, Abdullah. Good to see you. Dante Rose says people should start growing their own food. Yeah, but I don't know. So what do you guys think about that? What do you guys think about my sort of thesis that the biggest issues from this Russia-Ukraine war will actually be food shortages in the wheat market? I mean, just pull up a chart of wheat futures. I mean, it's been absolutely ramping here. I think that's the biggest threat to I would just say global society. Hey, Samantha R says, hey, Tom. Hi, everybody. Good to see you, Samantha R. We were just watching a pretty interesting lightning storm over here. Hey, Sally says, beautiful views, Tom. Yes, it was rain showers all day in New York. So here we are looking at the Paramount building, right outside of the FTX Arena. Humane says, glad to see you back in Miami, Tom. Thank you, Humane. Much appreciated. Arturo says, Tom, is that railroad track coming up for Amtrak or is that a freight line? I think this is a freight line. So oftentimes on the stream, we'll actually see the train ripping by here. And I've never seen a passenger train come by. I've only seen the freight trains, like you're saying. You know, and this reminds me, you know, back in the day, the vast majority of the Long Island Railroad train tracks used to be on the ground, just like this. But the government invested so much money to elevate or raise the tracks because there was so many accidents. I mean, people can be really, really stubborn on train tracks. You know, they try to drive their car around the train tracks as these gates are going down. Many people have been getting killed. There was actually very high suicides on Long Island from that. So I think, especially on South Shore Long Island, which is the Babylon line, they actually elevated or raised the train tracks, which I think was a really smart thing to do. And almost all those problems went away. So, I mean, if you could just think about this, you know, the train tracks rip right through downtown Miami. There's so much traffic, so much foot traffic here, especially on a game day. I think they should consider raising this. I don't know, it's just my 2 cents. Disney cast member says, Tom, the biggest problem began back in the 70s when we started becoming dependent on other countries. Labor was cheaper, caused the downfall of many farmers and family businesses. Yeah, I mean, I can't disagree with you there, Disney cast member. Can't disagree with you at all. Daryl, good to see you. NMB045 says Canada's foreign minister said she wants to help getting Ukraine wheat exported safely amid the war. Yeah, I mean, I don't really want to get too political here, but I could, I mean, I think a lot of the stuff that's going on in politics is it's just all nonsense because, you know, especially European countries are still buying so much oil and gas from Russia, but then at the same time we're putting on all these sanctions. I mean, I think that's just more of a, I don't know, I don't want to have the chat going crazy with all that stuff.
Hey! Yeah, Search Key, let's go. We just sold out all
yeah, I mean, that's just what I don't understand, right? So if we are having all of these multiple billions of dollars worth of packages going to Ukraine, but then on the back end, we're still buying oil and gas from Russia, I mean, isn't it just a big dog and pony show? I don't know. Lila says, here in Tucson, we have the same issues. They moved the road under the tracks and they put a pump in the system. Oh, for the rain. That's actually a good idea. It's actually a really good idea. Teresa Roberts says, no, Tom, there were some events in New York City, a Japanese parade and a free jazz fusion concert in Brooklyn Bridge Park. New York City is beginning to show life again. Yeah, I was there in New York. It was fantastic. It was beautiful there. I mean, just imagine this summer when the weather gets nicer. It's going to be amazing. NBA Alliance says, Tom, would you ever invest large amounts of money in commodities? I wouldn't personally, but then again, that's just because I want to invest money in businesses that generate free cash, right? And I think if you're investing in commodities only, you really have to be in tune with the market, because you have to be in tune with supply and demand cycles, because commodities in and of themselves don't produce cash flow, right? Commodities are used either to make goods and services, to power things, and I think just being a sole commodities investor is pretty hard, and I don't think I have that expertise. But speaking about like rare earths and other commodities and things like that, you know, there was a really good article today in Investors Business Daily where they were talking about new battery technology. And one of the things that they want to do is try to develop battery technology with sodium ion as opposed to lithium ion. And one of the reasons why they want to do this is because not only does it reduce, well, here I'll first start off why it has its downfalls. Its downfalls is obviously a lot heavier. So if you're going to use them in like an EV, it's probably going to make the car weigh a lot more. But the positive is it's not as prone to catching fire, right? So a lot of lithium-ion batteries could catch fire. So if you use a different chemical mix of sodium, you know, maybe that'll be better for, you know, powering standalone homes or buildings or something like that. I don't know, it was a really good article, so if you guys want to read the cover story today of Investors Business Daily, please check it out, because one of the things that we've been talking a lot about on the streams is we want to make sure we're mining this stuff in an ethical way. And a lot of the lithium and cobalt come out of the Democratic Republic of the Congo, where they actually currently have child and slave labor in order to do this stuff. So I think companies need to be extremely careful about where we're sourcing all of these rare earths and different commodities that are going to go in to making these batteries for EVs and things like that. So I think we need to develop a plan to diversify that away so we're not essentially funding dictators and scumbags around the world. Penelope is here. Good to see you. Welcome. Out and About is here. Good to see you, Out and About. Out and About is our friend from Toronto. Long time no see. Good to see you, Out and About. Penelope says, good evening, Tom. Food has always been a major issue. Yeah, I agree. I definitely agree, Penelope. Emmanuel says, IBD is a great paper. It's a fantastic paper. Love the paper. NBA Elias says, commodities trading will be important. Wheat, corn, grain becoming scarce with Russia and Ukraine war. I agree. So a lot of companies, you know, I think I was reading Ray Dalio's book, which was really good, and it was really interesting because I think one of his first jobs he had was trading commodities for McDonald's, right? So a lot of the times we don't think about, you know, there's so many jobs to be had. You know, you think about, oh, I may work at McDonald's, or I may, you just think about working in the regular fast food restaurant, but McDonald's sells such large amounts of products that they need to consult with different banks and different traders in order to hedge, in order to keep prices stabilized. So really interesting. If you guys want to read that book, Principles by Ray Dalio, he sort of details some of the work that he did with trading some commodities for McDonald's. So here we are at Bayfront Park, or Bayside, I think it's Bay, I keep forgetting. Every time I go back to New York, I forget the names of all the different parks and vice versa. But I think this is Bayside Marketplace here in downtown Miami. It's actually pretty, not as packed as I would have thought it would be tonight. Forever 18 says, Tom, the Russian tie their currency to oil. Their currency is getting stronger and stronger, and that leads to other currencies depreciating politically. Russia earned a lot more from the war. Yeah, well, I mean, I guess you could say the same thing about the US dollar too. I mean, if you just look at the Dixie, pull up a chart of the Dixie, it's at a 14-year high, right? And that's going to put a lot of pressure on emerging markets. So I think you could say the same thing about the Dixie too. And it's funny, it's interesting how this sort of stock market sell-off is working, because the dollar is getting stronger as rates are rising. So it's sort of like a double, if not triple whammy on the prices of equities. And as people sell out of stocks, they're buying the dollar at 16-year highs. If you pull up a chart of the Dixie, that is breaking out really, really strong. Hey, Ruff says, hello, I love Miami, my hometown, a great state to grow up and live. Well, it's good to see you. Thank you for joining. Paranormal Witness Girl says, my flight to Florida is delayed because New York City is New York City. Yeah, Paranormal Witness Girl, you are in New York today. Very nice. Hopefully you had a good time. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Don Smith says, Elon Musk was born in Africa. Yeah, he was South African. You were right. Ed Dunkel says, interesting, Rockefeller got his start trading commodities during the Civil War. So I think that's the Saudi Aramco. I always forget how to pronounce the name, but is now the most valuable company in the world now. I think that this big push of Western nations to go green entirely has put us in a little bit of a bad spot short term, because now, it's almost blew back in our face a little bit, because now we are more dependent on the dictatorships around the world that sort of did their own thing and said, you know what, I'm not going to go through with all this green technology. So when we've been shutting down our power plants and left us in a little bit of a rut, now we're actually buying energy from other places around the world, fueling their interest, which is definitely not a good look at all. And if we're going to buy that stuff, I would rather much buy, American drilled or American produced oil as opposed to Russian or Chinese or something like that, in my view. But David, good to see you. David Pershing, always a pleasure. I hope you're doing well. Honest says, a guy casually has 3 parrots. Yeah, that guy's here almost every night too. I think I saw that guy at the airport one time, not gonna lie. But that was when I flew out of Fort Lauderdale Airport. So it looks like they're doing a ton of construction here. It says Pier 5 coming soon. So almost everything is under construction. I'm not too sure what they're gonna do. I'm probably gonna have to go online and check it out, but here is a view of more, I would say, the Brickell area, or the financial district. And this building I've actually been working out of a lot this week. It is the Southeast Financial Center in Miami. And on the 20th and 21st floors, there's actually a WeWork office, which has amazing views. I think it is one of the newest WeWorks here in Miami. Samantha R says, did you see more turtles and manatees today? I didn't, but then again, I was in North Beach most of the day. So North Beach is just, oh, look at this guy. Oh, he went away. But there's so many lizards and iguanas here. But North Beach is just south of Haulover, where unfortunately they had that plane crash today. It was a very mini biplane that crashed at the Haulover Inlet. So it goes Haulover, and then I think it goes Surfside, where they had that condominium collapse, which was also horrible. And then you have North Beach, which is where I actually spent the majority of the day today. War Walker is here. Good to see a War Walker. Jason Francis is here. Jose says, hey Tom, just came back from my trip to New York. Your videos were a great help for me touring the city. Hey, awesome, man. Well, I hope you had a great time in New York. Hopefully you got to walk around on some of the days where it wasn't so rainy and cloudy. Because Mother's Day weekend in New York City was really, really cloudy. Really, really rainy. So hopefully you got some time to enjoy some good weather. Perfect Storm says, Tom, is President Trump DWAC going to acquire Twitter with backing of Peter Thiel, JP Morgan, and Goldman? Probably not. So I actually read about that rumor on Twitter. I don't think that's probably going to materialize. I think the only reason why Elon Musk's deal is quote unquote on hold is because Elon realizes he overpaid for Twitter, so he's trying to, find another way to renegotiate that deal. But that's just my view. But I don't think that's probably going to materialize in my view. The ABX girl says, hey, good to see you, ABX girl. Hemp Lord says, Tom, can anybody use the WeWork space? So anybody can, but I believe there's like a monthly fee of $300 to use it. But you could also get like a dedicated desk there too, which I think is $1,500 and up if you want to have like your dedicated office space. But if you just want to use it for the day, and you could use any WeWork across the country, and I think over the world, I think it's about $300 a month. I think. Don't quote me on that, but I think that's what it is. Jones says, interesting talks. Good to see you. Welcome. I even heard a crazy funny rumor how President Clinton was going to potentially deploy some money from the Clinton Foundation to help buy Twitter too, but that's all just nonsensical rumors. NMB045 says, what caused Elon to think he overpaid for Twitter? Well, I mean, I think he overpaid for Twitter, in my view. And I realized that, I think what he's realizing now is that as stocks are declining, he's like, oh my God, I just bought literally the top of the market. So I think he's trying to use, here's the excuse he's trying to use, and I think it's actually a very clever one. And this is the first sort of thing I tried to, I think we were talking about on the first day that Elon came out and told everybody that he's going to buy Twitter, and that there could be a very specific portion of Twitter's users that are not real. They're either bots or they're scam bots or something like that. So based upon the valuation metrics that he uses, just to keep it in simple terms, if Twitter has 1 million users and 5% of those users are not real people, they're scam bots, that's going to bring down the valuation. So Elon Musk is supposedly doing an investigation into how many users on Twitter are actually real people, as opposed to the ones that are bots and things like that. Yeah, Mike C. Mike C says, Tom, if you sell something at the top of the market and use it to buy something at the top of the market, it's kind of a wash. Perfect Storm says Elon Musk will play 2,000 mules on Twitter. Yeah, Annie says YouTube and Twitch also have major bot problems too. That is true. Well, I think it's all social media platforms. I don't think it's specific to Twitter. I would like to see the data on how many scam bots are on Facebook or Meta platforms. Probably a lot. I mean, especially during big election cycles, there's tons of bots, and I get them too on the channel sometimes as well. Like, you could sort of tell that they are scam bots. Anna says Sabrina, Twitter was too much. The Ralph says, Tom, he lost money on the stock market, and he might have been heavy into crypto. Interesting. Well, I don't think that. Well, the major thing that blew up was Terra Luna, which was. I mean, it was pretty much a clear Ponzi scheme. But again, since it's so new and fresh on the market and a lot of people got hurt, I don't want to really hammer on it too much. But I mean, if you have some sort of stable coin or protocol that is guaranteeing you a risk-free 19.5 to 20% return on lending protocols, it's probably too good to be true, in my view, but that's just my opinion. Hey, Sandrina says, hey, good night, Tom and everybody. It's good to see you. Welcome. Anna is here. Sabrina Fair is here. Penelope says, I'm thinking he made that deal. So you're thinking he made the investigation before the deal. NBA Elias says, I'm surprised that Twitter is not an LBO target. Same for Uber and Lyft. Well, Uber and Lyft don't really have any earnings. And, here's something interesting about that. If you remember correctly, on the streams we've been talking about how ever since the pandemic started, employees have really had the power over their employers, which hasn't happened for many years. You could even say decades. So many people are requesting massive raises or requesting to work from home and all of these different perks from their employers. And I've said on the channel, I'm like, guys, all of that stuff is going to reverse. And when it reverses, it's going to reverse rather hard. So you never really want to be greedy about that. So I said, look, if you wanted to negotiate your salaries higher, 6 months ago or 5 months ago when we were talking about it, was the time to do it, because things are going to come to a head, especially as the Federal Reserve raises rates. And the reason for that is because when rates are really low, what happens is a lot of these VC firms or venture capital firms just throw money and toss money around to anybody. And they could use that money to hire employees. And the capital markets are really rocking, especially in the IPO market. Now, the IPO market is totally shut off. I mean, it is gone at these investment banks. So as money gets more expensive, companies are going to understand, okay, we need to be a little bit more conservative here. And now they're not going to be hiring as many people, and they're definitely not going to be paying people as much as they used to. So we have seen across the board companies like Peloton laying off close to 3,000 people. Just this week, Twitter says, you know what, we are going to go on an absolute hiring freeze. We're not going to hire anybody anymore. We saw Facebook or Meta platforms, as well as now Alphabet, this week saying they are totally going into a hiring freeze. So this is just starting. So I think if you're still looking for a job, or you want to change or try to increase your salary, I think within the next 2 to 3 months is your last shot to do it, because then everything is going to go into gridlock mode and no companies will be hiring at all. But again, that's sort of my speculation here. I think you're just starting to see it. Uber and Lyft also came out with a statement in one of their investor days, I believe, saying that a job at Uber should be considered a privilege and we are not hiring any longer. So I think you're going to start to see companies not throwing out money and tossing out huge salaries like they used to. So I guess I'll turn it back over to you guys. Are you seeing sort of the same thing in your market? Because I'm in tech sales and I'm seeing the same thing. I'm seeing that a lot. Friends are telling me that there's big layoffs across HR departments within these tech organizations for companies cutting costs. And I'm wondering if you guys are seeing the same thing. Yo, Ibrahim Azam is here. What's up, Ibrahim? Always a pleasure to have you here. Good to see you. Crypto Revolution is here. Welcome. Don Smith says DC lawyers just got paid doubled in most cases. Ivy League kids don't want to work 12 hours a day. Well, that's fantastic for them. Crypto Revolution, thank you so much for subscribing to the channel. Much appreciated. All right, so let's walk over here. So for anybody who wants to stay up to date on the channel, hear my thoughts on the equities market, the cryptocurrency market, if you type !news, NEWS in the chat, the Nightbot will drop the link to the Behind the Street newsletter, which is a free financial newsletter I write for everybody in the chat. I know I haven't put one out in 2 weeks because it's been really, really crazy. I've had some big deals finally starting to come to close, so I've had to deal with those, but we will have one out this week. And we will be talking a lot about the credit cycles or the tightening cycles from the Federal Reserve. Hey, LineSync is here. What's up? Good to see you, my friend. Diana is here, says hello, Tom. John says, Tom, the federal government is hiring like crazy. Yeah, and you know what? I think they're really, really beefing up the IRS. So I think there's going to be almost double the IRS agents as there was under President Trump. Did anybody else hear that? I think there's a huge, huge hiring spree for IRS agents. Photos from around New York says, so are there any sectors that will be growing, or should everybody just sort of hunker down and wait? Yes, so here's what I think. So a lot of the times, like let's take all of these, I don't really want to be mean, but you know, junk companies, right? Like your Pelotons and all of these companies that were super hot during COVID. The only reason why they were able to hire people was because their stock price was so high, so they could just sell stock and use those proceeds to pay employees and to grow the company and things like that. But when the cycle turns and when the Federal Reserve starts to raise interest rates, stock prices of companies that have no earnings, they start to decline and decline fast. So nobody's buying the stock, they can't raise money, so they have to lay off a lot of people. And that's why, you know, I put something on Twitter. If you guys want to follow me on Twitter @WalksWallStreet, I put out a thread on Twitter that essentially said, the reason why I pay attention to the stock market in relation to companies' earnings is not only for an investing thesis, it's to identify companies that are safe and stable to work at, to build a career at. Because there was a lot of people just coming out of college, getting these jobs at startups, getting jobs at Peloton, and now they're all getting laid off. I see it on LinkedIn. My timeline is filling up, unfortunately, with people that are getting laid off at these very frothy tech startups because the venture capital money is turning off and the stock markets are going down. And the first companies or the first stocks to really get pounded during a turning of the cycle is unprofitable businesses, right? So all of the very highly speculative, high growth companies that don't generate any free cash flow, those are the ones that get hammered. Those are the ones that they have to do layoffs first. So, you know, Peloton just came out saying that they're laying off almost 3,000 people. Carvana, which was another one of those very hot speculative car stocks where they, you know, it's like an e-commerce for cars, doesn't make any money, total junk company. They're laying off close to 3,000 people. So it's important to stay in tune with this stuff so you could identify, okay, you know, in specific cycles. So in roaring bear markets, yeah, take the risk and go and work at a startup, right? Or even if, let's say you're at a big software company and you want to build your own startup, you know, really you have to pay attention to the market cycles, because maybe you want to raise VC money. It's going to be harder to do that when times are bad, because the VCs aren't going to be giving out money. So I think I don't think it's going to get too bad, but you just got to be aware and really pay attention, is all I'm saying. So I'm not trying to be an alarmist here, but just pay attention. Time lapse is Tom, not a fan of Peloton. I prefer the real life site. Scrapped the new US factory he was going to build in Ohio. Yeah, I mean, I could imagine. Excavator, good to see you. Time lapse D. Photos from around New York, says Carvana. They were blasting everybody with website ads. You know, another company that's similar to Carvana is Vroom. I think the ticker symbol for that was VRM. That's another stock that'll probably go to zero. Iris Lou says, good evening, Tom, and good evening, everybody. Good evening. It's good to see you. Al Baker's here. Welcome, Al. Sabrina Fair. The ABX girl says, yep, it's like 1998, 1999, or 2006 and early 2007, says the ABX girl. Yeah, so the ABX girl, to your point, you know, I was reading a really good article today in the Wall Street Journal. And essentially they were saying, at the very top of the 2000 tech and telecom bubble, the S&P 500 was trading for 26.4 times forward projected earnings. At the bottom of the market in 2006, I'm trying to think right off the top of my head, I think the S&P was trading for 14.7 times forward earnings, right? So a huge crush there. If we fast forward even more to the 2008 financial crisis, at the low of the financial crisis, the S&P 500 was trading for 8.8 times forward projected earnings. So right now, the S&P 500 is approaching closer to trend, which is at about 20 times forward earnings. I think for a long-term investor, if you have money in a 401k or retirement account or IRA or whatever it may be, I think if we could have one more leg lower in the market, and hopefully the S&P can get to around, you know, in the teens, hopefully the mid-teens or the lower teens forward earnings, I think that would be a very good buying opportunity to hold in a long-term retirement account if you just want to buy the index. Because history shows, you know, if you buy the S&P 500 below historical forward earnings projections, the market tends to recover and corporate earnings tend to recover. But here's the only thing that I'm sort of a little bit worried about. The thing that I'm a little bit worried about is because when we think about forward earnings, those are obviously projections, and we could have surprises to the downside where companies come out and report earnings and say, hey, you know, we had a forecast of $2 EPS for the quarter. Things have gotten so bad, our earnings are now cut in half. And then those multiples compress even more. So I don't think that'll happen, to be honest, because earnings season has actually rolled through. And it was pretty surprisingly strong, given the economic environment we're in. I mean, guys, we just got to put this in perspective here. Like, what I like, and you guys know me, I'm usually a screaming optimist, and I like to put things into perspective. You know, we just went through a global pandemic, okay? A total shutdown in the economy, total supply chain disruptions, and now a war. And corporate earnings are actually growing at 9%. So imagine what corporate earnings are going to be when things get back to normal. I mean, that's sort of my guess. So I think if what I would like to see is one more leg down in this market, I would like to see us come back down to the 2019 top, right before that 2020 top, or the COVID top, I should say. And I think that would be I would add significantly to my index funds in a retirement account. But in my actively managed portfolio, I'm pretty much all cash, and I don't buy stocks in a downtrend. But that's my 2 cents. Let me know what you guys think. Penelope says, Tom, you always give it to us straight. Thank you, Penelope. So Penelope, I'll show you the office I've been working out of. So this building is the Southeast Financial Center. And on the 20th and 21st floors is the brand new WeWork. Beautiful building, by the way. Fantastic views of the city. Absolutely beautiful. Hey, Chatsworth 1979 has just now discovered the channel. Nice stream. Hey, well, thank you for being here. We appreciate it. We usually go live on YouTube 5 days a week at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So if you guys are new, feel free to join. Feel free to hit the like button and subscribe. We do our streams in Miami as well as New York City, as we are looking over the Intercontinental Hotel with a beautiful full moon, I might add. Crypto Revolution, good to see you, my friend. Ibrahim Azam is here from California, good to see you. Wow, Iris says, Tom, there was another shooting at a supermarket, 10 people died. Is that true? I didn't hear about that. Bagels and Walks says, have a safe walk tonight, Tom. Rainy in New York City too. Yeah, I did hear about that. You know, I mean, it really has to stop raining in New York City, because there's nothing like a beautiful sunny day in New York, and it's been crazy rain almost every day. Gustavo says, I really like your optimistic view, Tom. That's what the world needs. Appreciate that. So here's another thing I like to think about. If you think about it like this, there was just a report in the Wall Street Journal that just came out. Visas from Shanghai, China, new applications have gone up, or I think it was passports. I'll send you guys the link to the Wall Street Journal article in the chat after the stream concludes, or I'll post it in the Discord. But people are trying to flee Shanghai and Beijing in record amounts because the government is draconian and they're locking their people down. Over 2,000 COVID cases. So think about it like this. If you are an entrepreneur from all over the world, doesn't matter if you're just in the United States, where are you going to choose to start your business? Would you say, yeah, I'm going to move my business to Shanghai and Beijing? Really? When you can't even go outside, when everything is locked down? And when we've noticed that if your business starts to do really good, the government puts a damper on it and then tries to get an equity stake in your business? Probably not. You know, so long as the United States keeps its capitalistic system and the integrity of private ownership, people from all over the world are going to want to start to create businesses here. Capital creation, capital formation will happen in the United States. And I think that's what's so important. And I think the biggest mistake the United States is making right now is in terms of the visa system. I think the United States needs to be letting in way more people than they are in terms of the H-1B visa system. So right now, a lot of tech CEOs and executives are actually going to Congress to tell them, look, with all of this remote work going on, there's not enough talent pool in the United States right now to fulfill all of our software engineering jobs, all of our other engineering jobs, and on and on and on. And we don't want to give these jobs to people overseas and pay them to do it remotely, because you can. What you need to be doing is opening up the market to allowing these people to get visas to immigrate to the United States so you can work and keep that capital creation right here in the United States. And this is something that we are doing a horrible, horrible job at as a country. Almost an embarrassing job. Canada is kicking our butt in relation to attracting very, very top talent. I think if our H-1B visa and other visa systems were a little bit better in the United States, we would be attracting literally everybody to build new products and services here. So I think that's going to get better. And the point I'm trying to make is, so long as that integrity of allowing people to come to America and giving everybody a fair shot to build products and services and get rich, capital formation is going to happen here. It's not going to happen anywhere else in the world. It's going to happen here. And it doesn't matter if the Dow is down thousands of points. Entrepreneurs are going to wake up every day and work on building new products and services. And when they need money, they're going to have to raise money via the capital markets and then IPO their companies. And then we'll be able to buy those companies that are very profitable, and the whole thing starts all over again. So long as we can keep that in its integrity, I think everything's going to be just fine. Could the stock market fall 50 to 60%? Yes. But over the long term, so long as our government is not ridiculous and keeps our free market system intact, there's going to be more innovative companies, there's going to be more Googles, there's going to be more Facebooks, and other companies that we couldn't even think about that are going to be created, and they're going to go public on our stock markets. And it's going to be a never-ending process. It's never going to end so long as our government doesn't screw it up. And I'm optimistic they won't. I'm optimistic that they won't. Al Baker says, do a live chat in Toronto. You know, I really want to go to Toronto this summer. I really want to go to Toronto this summer very, very badly. Love Toronto. The ABX girl says there are many available, but once discrimination in IT is there and older IT workers are ignored at 40. Says the ABX girl. Brian says, I agree with you, Tom. Good to see you, Brian. Joan says, I agree. Cooking says, I've definitely felt tempted to move to Canada. So I think it's easier for you to get a visa and immigrate to Canada than it is the United States. I think there's only 65,000 H-1B visas available for people to get. Brian says the CCP regime is manipulating its people in the lockdown to cover up their own screw-ups, but a major opportunity for the US and the rest of the world. Absolutely. Like, we should be using this, and you know, China is trying to actively put in risk mitigation measures to cap the amount of capital outflows out of China. You know, if you look at ultra high net worth individuals and high net worth individuals, they're trying to rip their money out of China, and China is trying to prevent that. And I think the United States should do everything in its power to lend out a hand and say, guys, if you want to come here, if you have specific skills, if you want to build products and services, do it here. Do it in the United States. That's how we win. Anna is glad Hong Kong's been opening up. Hope will. I hope so too. Sebastian is here, says, hey Tom, Q-Biz says, I have to go check out this restaurant the next time I come to Miami. Yeah, so let's see what it's called. It's called Novico, and it's actually right across the street from the brand new Aston Martin building here in Miami. Wow, Patricia Ivory says the shooting was in Buffalo, New York supermarket. That's horrible. Did that just happen? Did this just happen? That's horrible, horrible. The ABX scroll says there is also an increase for American passports. Maybe Americans want to stretch their wings and go elsewhere also, says the ABX scroll. Yeah, well, good luck. Cooking says, is Novico a hotel? I don't think so. I think it's more of like a bar and lounge. I'm not sure. I'll have to look it up. Wow, Penelope says it happened this afternoon. That's horrible. Tunnel vision, and they think they know what America needs, but they have no clue. I agree with that. BP says, Tom, Buffalo, New York City, or Buffalo, New York supermarket mass shooting leaves 10 dead. Holy crap, man. I didn't even know that. How come I didn't see that? That should have been all over the news. Ed Potke, good to see you. Ed Potke, send me an email, man, if you need. If you need anything, let me know. Send me an email. Oh my God, that's horrible. Ren 10 says there's too much mental illness in the country. About in the Wall Street Journal is that over 100,000 people that died of opiate overdoses in America. I mean, how disturbing is that? Hey, Tortellini is here. So what's up? Finally catching the stream. It's very good to see you. Hopefully you're well. Wow, the ABX girl. Hopefully they're safe. That's horrible. You know, I didn't even get any notification on my phone or anything. Usually that would be massive news. Hey, Egan says, hello, Tom. Your blogs are such a treat. Blessings and happy thoughts. Thank you so much. Good to see you. Sherry Rodrigo, good to see you. Don Smith says, Tom, over 300,000 people died from drugs last year. Yeah, it's just really, really horrible that kind of stuff is happening and it's going on. You know, every time I walk out of Penn Station, and you guys know, when I go to work, I usually take the Long Island Railroad. And all outside of Penn Station, there's people abusing drugs, shooting heroin, doing pills. And it's really heartbreaking, and it doesn't seem like the city is doing a lot or enough to sort of help solve the problem. It's been going on for a while, but it's really, really gotten bad just in the last 5 years, unfortunately. Wow, guys, check out this beautiful skyline overlooking the W Hotel here in downtown Miami. Just a beautiful, beautiful night. Hey, D Hat is here. Good to see you. Says buy Bitcoin. Love that, my friend. Good to see you. Really beautiful area here, right on the water. So whenever I have a lunch break at work, I always walk around this area and you get to see manatees and sea turtles and all kinds of stuff in the water. It's absolutely beautiful. You know, for some reason, every time I look up at a palm tree, I feel a lot less stressed no matter the situation. I'm not sure if it's just looking at plants in general make you feel that way, but something about palm trees is extremely calming, I guess you could say. Everybody, check out this full moon over Miami. So the full moon is actually located directly over Brickell Key, which, I really want to stream from this island here, Brickell Key, but the internet service is not that good over there, so I think we're going to start to buffer a lot. But if you guys are enjoying the stream tonight, feel free to leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel if you are new. We usually go live 5 days a week between New York City and Miami, and we'd love to have you here for the chats. 61 says beautiful full moon, definitely, absolutely. Agreed. Line Sinks is great sky and clouds. Eyeglass Lady says looking at plants and animals. Have a good effect, agreed. I know, NBA Alliance is like call for Starlink internet service, I wish. So everybody, check out the brand new Aston Martin building. I'll give you guys a look from directly underneath it. So here's the very base of the Aston Martin building, but it goes all the way up. I think it's going to be completed relatively soon. And this is supposedly going to be one of the most expensive apartment buildings in the city of Miami. We'll continue on our walk here. And here's the JW Marriott Hotel we're going to walk past. D-Hot says it looks like Dubai. Yeah, so here it is. It's not completed just. This is excellent channel, dude. Thank you. So here's the we're literally directly under the Aston Martin building here. They're almost finished. And I think the building is almost entirely sold out too. So people are actually buying these apartments in the building before it's even finished. Hey, Roy is here. What's up, Roy? Good to see you. Perry is here, says the clouds have an eerie feel over Miami. Yeah, so Perry, if you scroll all the way back to the beginning of the stream, I can't believe you've already been streaming for over an hour, but if you go all the way back to the beginning of the stream, we were actually watching a crazy thunderstorm. So if you want to check that out. Cynthia Beal is joining us. What's up, Cynthia? Good to see you. Hope you're doing well. Hey, QBiz, is the view of Miami River from the Epic Hotel parking lot is always nice to see. Yeah, you know what? I think we're gonna pass it in a second, so we might as well go in. So this is Southeast 3rd Avenue here in downtown Miami. You know, my biggest regret of the day is wearing pants. I should have wore shorts because it is getting hot here. So here we are outside of the Epic Hotel, Southeast 4th Street, Biscayne Boulevard Way. And just as QBiz said, we're gonna walk down and you're gonna see an amazing, amazing view from, I think it's, what is it called? The Miami River? If I'm not mistaken. We'll check it out. Might as well, QBiz, since we're here. So it's called the Epic Hotel and Residences. For some reason, it always smells really good here. Fantastic Frankie, good to see you. Welcome, Fantastic Frankie. Yeah, Crypto Revolution says it honks just like New York City. Definitely gives that New York City feel a little bit. David says that was a nice boat back there. Gregory says, do you know when they will finish the Aston Martin building? Well, supposedly it's supposed to be finished later this year, so later in 2022. Yeah, the only thing different about Miami and New York City is the lack of scaffolding here for sure. You know, there's always a lot of nice cars here too. Hey, the ABX girl says, Tom, I believe Toronto non-Canadian residents cannot buy condos to slow the price. Yeah, so the ABX girl, you know what's crazy? There was actually a big article on the Wall Street Journal today about the crazy housing market in Toronto, but supposedly it's starting to unwind all but slowly because the Canadian Central Bank is starting to raise interest rates, and I think home sales are down about 27% year over year. So I think interest rates are going to put a little bit pressure on home sales, but you know, if you think that the housing valuations are crazy here in New York, I mean not in New York, here in the United States, in comparison to other places across the world, the valuations are way, way higher in Canada and other places too. So if we were trying to call the United States a housing bubble, there's a bigger housing bubble in other places across the world. James Brumley says, Tom, why the heck is California price gouging real estate? Well, I think there's a big supply issue in California. I think there's been a lot of underbuilding over the past couple of years in California for sure. Viewers on the stream, so I'd love to know what you guys think about the housing market over there. Anna says, Tom, if you miss seeing New York City, watch Pretend It's a City on Netflix. You know, I don't have a Netflix account, but I'll have to check that out, maybe from a friend's. Hey, Chrissy is here. Says, beautiful night. Thank you, Chrissy. NMB 045 says, because we had no housing crash in 2008 in Canada, we're suffering now as a result. I think things went down a little bit there in Canada in 08. Minnesota says BlackRock is buying up U.S. houses on purpose. Yes, so there was a lot of institutional buying in the single-family housing market and the multifamily housing market because essentially interest rates were so low, money was essentially free. So if you could lock in at super low rates and just try to make money off the cash flow, I think that's exactly what they did. I think you're 100% right. But Mong, good to see you. James Brumley says, I live in California, but I feel like I will have to jump to another state eventually. Yeah, I think California had a severe problem with underbuilding homes, actually. A different take, 100% agreed. Check out this clock. Selena B says, miss Miami, so much fun, grew up there for 20 years, now living in Canada. Well, you can always come visit. You know, there's a lot of Canadians that tend to come visit Miami. I actually was talking to a couple people from Toronto here not too long ago. They tend to come in when Toronto is having very brutal winters. You guys tend to have really brutal winters up there in Canada. But let's see if we could see any fish or manatees or anything cool. Sometimes we can over here. Hey, Savi's here. Says, good evening, Tom and everybody. What's up, Savi? Good to see you. Perry says Miami is a miniature Manhattan, especially in Brickell. Yeah, so Brickell is what they call the mini Manhattan for sure. I work there sometimes. Tends to be very, very crowded there. Somebody says waiting for an alligator to pop out. Hey, Selena Beast, Tom, I'm planning to. Haven't been there since 2012. Yes, our winters are brutal. Oh, guys, the drawbridge is going up. I think this is like the 5th time in 2 days or 2 streams we've seen the drawbridge go up. So let's see if there's any massive yacht or boat that is going to come from under. No way. Is it true? Somebody says the Action Kid is on the drawbridge. Maybe we'll see him. So if you look closely, you'll see all of the foot traffic lined up there on the bridge. I mean, that boat seems a little bit small to be having the bridge open for it. Tortellini says, I love living in California, no complaints. I've never been to Cali, but I definitely want to visit LA. But I believe this is a very expensive restaurant. Maybe it's a Japanese restaurant here. Oh, they're closing the bridge now. Yeah, maybe we'll see AK walking across. Let's go to the other side. I think there's a better view. So maybe we could see him. Emmanuel says, I'll stay away from LA, no thanks. Well, I think the thing with me is I've never been, so I want to at least go once. NMB045 says, Tom, you'll love Southern California. I'm not even an American, and I've been there tons of times. It's fun. Yeah, we'll have to go there. I mean, I have a ton of travel plans now that the pandemic is over. I love this walk here. Wow, AK was in Coconut Grove. Coconut Grove is a fantastic place. Been there many times. Fantastic Frankie says, who is this fellow Action Kid? Does he get a lot of action? Yeah, check him out. He's a fellow streamer. Oh, here's another boat coming across. Let's see if we could zoom in to see what they're doing on the boat. It looks like a wedding is going on the boat. Cynthia Beal says, Tom, turn around.
Are you going live?
Yeah, hey, how are you?
Hi.
Good to see you. James Brumley. Somebody says, COVID is alive and well, we just need to learn how to live with it. Indeed. photos around New York, so it looks like they're sitting around not discussing the markets. Dilbert says, Tom, have you been to Tampa, Florida? I have not been to Tampa, Florida, but I definitely want to. So for all of you, those who are just joining, one of the things we were talking about, oh, it looks like somebody left their lunch here or something. One of the things we were talking about is if the Federal Reserve will be successful in killing inflation while supporting equity markets. But I think they're going to have a very, very hard time doing that, because if we think back to 2008 and even a little bit before, every time the market would fall under a little bit of pressure, you could think about, a 10 to 15% sort of correction. One of the main things that would happen is the Federal Reserve would lower interest rates, right, to try to support the market. They would buy mortgage-backed securities and U.S. Treasuries. But now, here's the issue. Inflation is ramping. I think we just got a CPI print of almost 8.9%, almost 9% inflation. Many economists think that if we did the CPI calculation the way we used to do it, inflation would be more along the lines of 15%. So back in the day when inflation was just at the Federal Reserve's target of 2%, well, we could afford to lower interest rates, but now there's no way. Oh, maybe they have fish here. Oh no, I don't know what that was. But now there's no way. So if the Federal Reserve wants to lower interest rates now and save the stock market, well, inflation is going to continue to ramp. And they can't afford that, especially during a midterm election cycle. So if we think about the Biden administration's number one priority, right, is to have the Democrats continue to maintain stronghold within all the major parties of government, or parts of government, I should say. That's not going to happen if inflation continues to ramp. So I think that Jerome Powell will continue to sacrifice the stock market in hopes to sort of tame this inflation. Because if we look at the data, 90% of all U.S. equities are held by the top 5 and 1%, not by the majority of voters. The majority of voters are affected by inflation. So I think that this stock market could potentially have a lot longer to fall, or a lot farther to fall. Especially if the Federal Reserve continues to raise rates. So they are pretty much stuck between a rock and a hard place, because if they try to save the markets, maybe they will, but that means inflation will go from 9% to probably 15%, the CPI will. But if they continue to raise interest rates, and if they continue to not acquire mortgage-backed securities and U.S. Treasuries, but instead let them roll off the balance sheet, I think there's a pretty good chance that they'll be able to kill inflation. But that means they'll also kill the stock market. This stock market's going to go a lot lower. The worst case scenario is the Federal Reserve raises interest rates, it doesn't do anything to tame inflation, and the stock market gets killed, and then that's an Armageddon situation. That I don't think is going to happen. It's possible, but that I don't think is going to happen. But again, Fed Chair Jerome Powell is definitely between a rock and a hard place. And I think he's seeing extreme pressure from the Biden administration to get inflation under control before the midterms. So what do you guys think? Do you think they can do it? Do you think that it's possible for the Fed to kill inflation without killing the stock market even more? MBA Elias says the Fed cannot control supply side inflation without triggering a recession. That's a good point. Emmanuel says unemployment is going to spike, Tom. Hey, Estelle is here. Welcome, Estelle. Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of people says the Fed is too late. Emmanuel says, Tom, the Fed is way too late. That's possible. Nick Rock says absolutely not. Photos from around New York says I'm worried. Brian says I don't think the Fed could accomplish that goal in time. Yeah, Ibrahim Azam says they are in a difficult situation. Well, I mean, here's the thing. You know, before they could quote unquote afford to kick the can down the road by saving the stock market because we weren't dealing with inflation, but now we're dealing with crazy amount of inflation. So it's sort of like pick your poison now, right? Things are finally starting to come to fruition. And I think this is getting I think it's getting more political than it should. But then again, every politicians, doesn't matter if they're Republican or Democrat, they don't really care about the American people. I think that's pretty obvious. They just care about getting reelected. And if you think about the voter base, the vast majority of voters don't have exposure, or much exposure to equities. 90% of the equities are held by the top 5 and 1% in this country. So who knows? I mean, you could see this market test the highs of 2020. I think that's entirely possible. But if you look on a historical basis, let's just think about the valuation metrics of the NASDAQ at the very top of the 2000 tech and telecom bubble. I think the market, or the S&P 500, was trading at 24 times forward earnings. Don't quote me on that, but I think that's what it was trading at. I believe at the bottom of that crash in 2002, it was trading at 14.7 times forward earnings. So if you think about where we're coming down to now, we're still in the low 20s projected forward earnings. So median trend, or the average trend, the S&P 500 usually trades at about 20 times forward earnings. I think if we can get into the teens, that'll be a good long-term buying opportunity, in my opinion. But you know, I posted an interesting thread on my Twitter about this, about different valuation metrics in relation to different time periods in the market. So if you want to follow @WalksWallStreet on Twitter, a lot of the times I'll post some of my research and equity research there if you want to stay up to date on that. Dennis says, Tom, they lost credibility by continuing to call inflation transitory for so long. Dennis, I think you have the comment of the night. So what Dennis is saying is totally so true. And I think a lot of people are forgetting that because, you know, it seems like there's a new pandemic or a new crazy thing to worry about every day. But at the end of the day, the Federal Reserve has lost all credibility in my eyes. When they said, don't worry about inflation, it's going to be transitory, we don't need to raise interest rates. And then, you know, 8.9% inflation prints later, now it's a big problem. So I think you're 100% right. And I mean, and even some of the most notable money managers on Wall Street were thinking the same thing. They were thinking, hey, inflation is just transitory, we don't have to worry about it. Well, 2 quarters, 3 quarters later, and inflation is ramping. So I think you're 100% right. Penelope says, how can we not have a recession after this pandemic? We need to look at history for sure. Yeah, I mean, you know, and if you look throughout history, after major pandemics, gambling habits actually tend to go up. So euphoria tends to spike. And that's usually what happens at the very end of major credit cycles. So at the end of every single major credit cycle, you have these extreme euphoric blow-off tops that we've seen. And we've been talking about this on the Behind the Street newsletter that I send out almost every week, that I think in this cycle, it was the very frothy, speculative SPAC stocks, or the special purpose acquisition companies. All of those blew up. Very little earnings, very little revenue of those companies. I think there's going to be a lot of let's just say litigation and legalese in relation to those SPACs that are really going to rock people like they have never seen before. But that's a topic for a different night. Then you had all the Robinhood people, with people gambling with derivatives products on these essentially gambling websites. I don't even consider Robinhood a broker dealer. I consider them a gambling website. And that is very indicative of late cycle behavior. And I think we're just starting to see some of the air come out of the bubble. But I'm very optimistic for the future. I think a lot of people that have been disciplined, there's going to be so many opportunities here to buy amazing, amazing businesses. So it's all in the works. It's all in the works. Amazing opportunities are ahead. Oh, check out this. Wow, check out this car. What is this, everybody? I think this is a Lamborghini, I believe, right? You know, I was reading in the paper, isn't Lamborghini coming out with an EV, or at least a hybrid type car? Am I correct on that? Hey, Tasmanian is here, says good viewpoint. Good to see you, Tasmanian. Jones says, I agree, good to see you. Eyeglass Lady says, therein lies one of the problems, no adequately studying of history. Fantastic Frankie says, that could be Uber. You know, I'm not sure what year this Lambo is. Somebody's asking what year it is. I'm not too sure, but it looks really cool. I'm not a big car guy, so I don't really know too much about it, but it looks pretty cool. Andy S is like, Tom, that is a show-off car. Yeah, I mean, a lot of people drive nice cars here, but I think that's just because the weather is nice. Hotel and residences. So if you guys want to come here, it is right on Southeast 4th Street in Miami. Beautiful location here. And it's a beautiful night too. The humidity is actually dying off at least a little bit, but earlier today was extremely, extremely humid. The ABX scroll says, Tom, the Ford F-150 Lightning, the EV is sold out. Wow. And the Cadillac version pre-sale started this week. Yeah, I think that, so ABX girl, I'm going to send you an interesting article. I forgot to program it into the Nightbot. But if anybody reads Investors Business Daily, there was an amazing article about battery technology. So if you Google Investors Business Daily cover story, EV battery technology, really, really fascinating stuff with the shift from lithium-ion batteries to more sodium-based chemical makeup. Eyeglass Lady says, this is a bachelor party? I think it's a prom. Hold on, let's zoom in. I think it's a prom, I think. These kids look young, don't they? They look like teenagers, so. Isn't this prom season, everybody? I don't know. I never went to my prom, but this is I think this looks like a prom here. But this is the JW Marriott Hotel here in Miami. Ming says it's prom. Hey, Lady O, what's up? So Lady O is our great moderator from New Jersey. Good to see you, Lady O. Lady O, what's the weather like in New Jersey now? I mean, everybody, all of our New Yorkers are telling us that the weather was not so good today. So hopefully things will start to pick up. Fantastic Frankie says it could also be a bat mitzvah. That is true. You know, maybe it's not a prom, because look at all these people getting off this bus here. Maybe it could be a prom / bachelor party / wedding. So look at all this traffic coming off the bridge. Every time they raise that drawbridge, there's so much traffic that backs up. It's almost like coming out of the Holland Tunnel, almost, it looks like. Wow, Cactus Jim says, Tom, it was 106 degrees in Arizona today. Oh my God. So this is Miami Tower, or City National Bank. It's one of my favorite buildings in Miami. The ABX girl says, Tom, it could be a wedding or after party for a reception. Yeah, that's true. I think you're right. A ton of traffic here. Penelope, I appreciate that. Thank you. But Cactus Gym, 106 degrees, my God. Hopefully you have a pool at your house. But Cactus Gym, everybody's like, you know, Miami is way too hot because it's humid. But I mean, if you really get hot, I mean, you could just jump in the ocean. I think I may go swimming tomorrow. You know, I was at 72nd Street Beach today in North Beach. I was at, you know, surprisingly enough, I was actually going to spend the day in Haulover, the Haulover Inlet, but there was a horrible plane crash there today. So there was no buses. So usually I take the S bus from Sunny Isles Beach, but the bus wasn't running because of the crash. So I had to take the 3 to the L across town and go to the other side. But maybe tomorrow, if they clear all the stuff, we could go. We'll see. So here's a view from the top of the bridge. No, tortellini, I think 2 people died, unfortunately. I think 10 people were injured and 1 person died in the crash. But here's a view from on top of the bridge. And we were standing and walking right here. You know, the breeze feels so nice being up here. Emmanuel says, Tom, you just missed AK. You know, we ran into Action Kid yesterday. You know, maybe when I end my stream, I'm going to go say what's up to him. Because my phone is on 10% battery. I always love when the boats have the lights on it. Lights up the entire river. It looks amazing. And here, right in front of us, everybody, is the brand new Aston Martin building. It is not yet complete, but it will be very, very soon. Brian's beautiful view indeed. Yeah, so now we're walking towards Brickell, which is the financial district in Miami. So if you look straight ahead, that's actually the Bank of America Tower right here. This thing looks cool too. Check this out. Let's see what this boat looks like crossing here. Hey Iris, thank you so much for joining tonight. New York 7A, good to see you. Hope you're well in New York 7A. So if you guys enjoyed the stream tonight, feel free to leave a like on the video. Tomorrow we will be doing our much anticipated Markets a Look Ahead stream. It's going to be a very, very, very busy week on Wall Street. We have Walmart reporting earnings, we have Target. There's going to be key economic data in relation to the housing market coming out. So you guys do not want to miss our Markets a Look Ahead stream tomorrow night, Sunday, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We may be doing that from South Beach. I'm not too sure, but please stay tuned for that. But check out these people on the balcony here. Imagine the view. Insane. Fabricio, good to see you. Brian says hello from Ecuador. Welcome, Brian. Lewis, much appreciated. So everybody, all the articles that we talked about today in the stream, I will be posting in the link in the description after the conclusion of this video. So we talked about historical forward price to earnings ratios for the S&P 500. I will put that in the link in the description. If you want to sign up for our Behind the Street newsletter, if you type !NEWS news in the chat, the Nightbot will drop the link to the free financial newsletter that we write once a week for all of our viewers on the stream. And I think we've reached over 1,030 people, readers to the Behind the Street newsletter. So thank you everybody for that. And with that, we will see everybody tomorrow for the Markets a Look Ahead stream. So Line Sync, much appreciated. Baymax, Don Smith, Lori E, Patricia Ivory, Mohammed, Lewis, thank you. Penelope, much appreciated. Cindy Foley, Roy S, Nick Rocks, Lady O, Brian, Fabricio, XOXX Bob, Brandon, much appreciated. Carolina Tom, what's up? Good to see you, Carolina Tom. Yeah, we were on AK's stream yesterday. Carolina, let me know if you're going to be in Miami. I think you said you bought a place here. I'd love to meet up, grab a coffee or something like that. But until then, everybody, we'll see you later. Photos from around New York. And to the mighty bull, have a good night wherever you are, because there is always a bull market somewhere, and you just need to know where to look. I'll leave you guys off with a beautiful view of the moon over Miami. Have a great rest of the weekend, and we will see you back here live 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for the Markets a Look Ahead stream.